So someone else's story. This story happened to me, but my best friend, John O'Hara, who we've been friends since the first day of uni in 1999, he will tell it. I will sometimes tell it. Sometimes we'll tell it together because, you know, when you've been friends with someone for a really long time, and those who know us, we have that friend shorthand where sometimes like we talk and people who don't know us are like, how do you guys know each other? Because we can really, they don't know how to take us seriously or stuff like that. And so inevitably we tell the story and it always, one of us will say, I saved his life, or he'll say, or I'll say, he saved my life. And so this is the story of how John O'Hara saved my life. In the year 2000, 20 years ago, just before my 20th birthday, so that tells you how old I am, we were about to go back to our second semester of WAAPA, and I used to get tonsillitis quite a lot. And so this one morning I woke up and I was like, oh, I think I'm getting tonsillitis again, which was a bit of a hassle, but I kind of knew what to do. But what happened really quickly was I started to get this incredible fever. Like it was unlike anything I've ever experienced before. And my throat was really sore. I was looking out the window and I couldn't really look at the light and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, maybe I've got, you know, some kind of migraine, which I never had before. And then suddenly I started to vomit. And so I was like, so I was super sick, right? Like so sick. And probably 4 or 5 hours went by and somehow, because this was really before you texted, like mobiles had just come out and people were like, what's this text thing? So you still used to call on the mobile and you rarely did because it was about $4.95 a minute. But he called me or I called him and he was like, you okay? I said, no, I'm not. Like I'm really sick. And then, so he came around with another girl from our year, Carla McCallum, and they kind of looked at me and they were like, dude, you are really sick. And it was like, yeah, I know, but I guess it's going to go away. And so by this time they'd left some food and it was about 6 o'clock in the evening. I had a really disjointed night's sleep, like really bad. You know, when you're so sick, you know, like that sick where you think I'm going to die, but you're not going to die. But like, so it was that, right? And so I was spewing, I was cold, it was Perth. Anyway, so about 5 a.m. I wake up and I look at my arms and I'm quite fair with freckles. So I looked at my my forearms and they had freckles on them. And I was like, oh, this is really weird. But the freckles were purple, right? So I was like, okay, this cannot be good. Like this isn't good. So more disjointed sleep. Jono comes around again. And this time his mum's on the phone. And his mum was kind of my mum because I'm from Brisbane, we're in Perth, I'm 20. You know, you don't really know how to look after yourself. And so she's like, you need to get into the doctor. So I don't know anyone who is from Perth or still lives there, but if you know Perth on a Sunday, because it was Sunday by now, nothing's open, right? Like nothing's open. I don't even think they still have their supermarkets open yet. So we go to this hospital, and they had, you know, their day clinic, and I walk in and I am really sick. And I get this guy, he's been a doctor for, I would say, 50 years. He had no idea what was wrong with me, right? So like, he's like, I don't know, like maybe you should have some of these pills. And I couldn't keep anything down. I hadn't eaten. So I've been sick for maybe 36 hours at this point. He gives me these antibiotics and sends me home. And I'm like, okay, whatever, maybe. Jono drops me home and he's like, just call me if you need anything. Of course I don't call, but I remember kind of getting up to get some water and I fainted. And another guy called Ezekiel the Ox. I don't know if you know Zeke. So I lived with him, and Warwick Allsop was in the house as well, and Tamlin Henderson. So this house of like hopeless 20-year-olds who had no idea what to do. And Zeke's like, call the ambulance. And I was like, no ambulance. Because for some reason in my head, I thought if I go to hospital, I'm going to die. So it's best if I stay at home and not get treatment. So then I kind of go into this weird, like 4 or 5 hours where I spoke to my sister and I spoke to my brother. Anyway, Jono comes around. By this point, we're nearly like at 48 hours of being sick. I've locked myself in my room. He's on the phone to my dad. Like, I'm so sick. He breaks the door down. Well, when I say breakdown, I mean like pushes it open. Can you imagine him breaking the door down? But he puts me in the back of his Datsun 120Y with my doona and a bucket, and I'm like spewing, right? I get into the same the same doctor's place, and there's one doctor who recognizes me, and she's like, "You are like, you're sick, like you're super sick. Come with me." So they rush me in, and I'm sitting in her room, and by this point, it's just her and me, and I haven't slept, and I'm tired, and you know, like when you see on RBH and stuff, they're like, "I need you to stay awake for me." Like she was kind of like that. And I remember her ringing my dad. This is the last thing I remember. She's like, "Hi, Mr. Wheat. It's such and such from St. John of God Hospital in Perth. I have his son here. We're going to admit him. He's critical." And then I just shut my eyes, right? So then I open them again, and I'm in this glass room in hospital, completely naked on a bed with a catheter attached to where a catheter is attached to. And that's it. And my mum and dad, who are from Brisbane, staring at me, and I'm in this room. I have no idea what has gone on, right? And so then literally very quickly, it's like, zzz, the parents are here. My mum comes in, she's crying, because anyone who's met my mum, like, I mean, it's pretty full on. She's crying. My dad's holding it together. This doctor comes in and he's like, "Yeah, so you have meningococcal meningitis, and you've been in a coma for 2 days, and you nearly died." And I was like, "Okay, just give me more morphine." Because at this point, I was like, all of this stuff is happening in this, like, and because I was so drugged. So what had happened was, after I'd fallen asleep, they had to put me into an induced coma because I was moving around so much. And they had to keep me still so they could give me a spinal tap. And because it took them ages to figure out if I'd had meningococcal meningitis, because this was kind of early on when it wasn't like known as much. But the thing was, like, normally you die pretty quickly with meningococcal meningitis, but I kind of made 48 hours out of it, but came that close. And apparently, if they hadn't have gotten me there like 45 minutes to an hour later, I would have died. And so I was on a machine, I was kept alive, and then apparently it was my birthday. My talent Anderson says it's really depressing, like everyone's saying happy birthday to this person with the machine beeping. And yeah, like it was intense. And then I spent 2 weeks in hospital, in Royal Perth Hospital, and I became like the boy who lived. So because I'd survived through it, all these doctors were coming around, and like, you know, all these people were poking and prodding and all of this kind of stuff. To kind of figure out what happened. And in the meantime, poor Jono had to go to uni and say, "Hey, so if you've hung out with Stephen, you might have meningococcal. You have to have these drugs." And it was like, it was a really full on time. And I don't think, because when I woke up as well, all these people were like, you know, the ambulance driver who transferred me was like, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, "No, of course I don't remember you. I was in a coma." But they, all these people were telling me how serious it was, and I had no idea. So like, and I don't know if anyone else has been in a coma, our experiences are different, but I just blinked. Like, it was literally just like going, I thought it was the next morning. And all of that had happened. So poor Jono, like, he hadn't slept. He held the fort until my parents got there. And if it really wasn't for him pushing down the door, yeah, I probably won't be here. So, but you know what? Every year on my birthday, he's like, "I saved your life." And at my 40th this year, it's going to come up, you know. But yeah, so that's the story of how he saved my life.